The Big Ten title drought has reached a quarter century, but the Purdue Boilermakers are your preseason #1 team, and they're ready to snap the streak.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up, folks? Welcome in to the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, a daily national college hoop show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are your co-hosts. I'm Andy Patton. He is Isaac Schade, and you are joining us at the place to get your college basketball content Monday through Friday, in season, out of season. It does not matter. We are here for you every single day. I want to give a special shout out to those of you who are with us every day, those everydayers, as well as those of you hanging out in the Locked On College Basketball Discord community, and remind you all that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the FanDuel app today. Well, Isaac, we are continuing as we have done every Friday for just about the last 2 months. We are continuing our conference preview series. We got 9 different conferences that we are giving full previews for, including all the power conferences. And today we're talking Big Ten basketball. We've done SEC, ACC, Big East. We've also talked about the Atlantic 10, the Mountain West, and the American, not the AAC, the American Conference. They have demanded to be called. There's a playlist on YouTube if you want to check it out here. We got a link coming your way. And again, like we said, Big Ten today, we got WCC and Big 12 to close us out before we get into the actual season. And folks, we got some Big Ten basketball taking place tonight. If you're listening to the show and you are hyped up about UCLA or Michigan, they're playing, not each other. That would be an epic non-conference game.
What is that even allowed?
Yeah,
NCAA legislation-wise?
The Ade Mara game, right? That would be a fun one. But UCLA is playing at San Diego State at 10 Eastern time. Unfortunately, it does not appear that game will be televised. And then Michigan's exhibition will be against Cincinnati. That one on Big Ten Plus. You want to check out some Big Ten, Big 12 action. But Isaac, we're going to talk some storylines for the conference, including that long title drought. We're going to make our predictions for who's going to be on the Big Ten first team. We're not doing 10 players like they do. We're doing just 5 players for our picks. And then we're going to close out the show talking about how many teams are going to make the big dance. Are we going to see double figures? Are they going to contend with the SEC for the most teams out of any conference in the NCAA tournament? But Isaac, we got to start with that drought, because it has been a quarter century since Tom Izzo last led a Big Ten team to a national championship. And this year feels like there is a chance. Every year it feels like there's a chance. There's always somebody from the Big Ten in the top 10.
Last year. There was no chance.
Last year. That's true. Last year was less likely than most years. But this year, Purdue is your preseason #1 team in the AP poll as it comes out. They are a pretty consensus top 3 or 4 team by any voting metric, by any computer metric. They have 2 returning All-Americans in Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn. They got some talented players coming into the program from the transfer portal, talented international players as well. Fletcher Lawyer coming back. This is a great team. This is a great team.
Lawyer or Fletcher Lawyer, Andy? Which one?
Fletcher Lawyer. We do not need to apologize. I think we will anyway, just to keep the tradition alive. But Isaac, this feels like one of the better opportunities. I mean, it's been Purdue the last few years who have had this chance for this streak to finally come to an end.
Andy, a couple things on that. How cool, I think a lot of people, and maybe us included, after the Zach Edey era would have said, they missed their window. Mm-hmm. I love that 2 years later, it's like they're preseason #1 for the first time ever. Mm-hmm. Second thing I love is the fact that Matt Painter has not shied away from this at all. Every time I've heard him speak this offseason about expectations, he said, no, we're leaning into it. We talk about it, because then if you don't, it becomes this bigger thing. And it's like, well, so he's like, no, it's a topic of conversation for us where we put our stamp on it and say, no, this is what we're going for. And I love it, Andy. And obviously, to say Final Four or bust is dumb in college basketball because of the randomness of the NCAA tournament. But to say second weekend or bust and our goal is a Final Four, that seems more reasonable, or whatever it is. And so I love all of this. It makes a ton of sense. I love everything that Purdue has. They've got depth. They've got, Oscar Clough coming in. They've got, I'm so excited to see Omer Meyer in action. It just sounds like he's going to be a dude. I love that Braden Smith has brought him under his, there's just a lot there. Andy, quick trivia question. So obviously it was Michigan State that won the last Big Ten championship. Do you remember who was the leading scorer for that team? It was not who I would first think of that it was.
Okay, the first name that came to my head is Mateen Cleaves, who correct. I loved. It is Mateen Cleaves.
No,
okay,
I'm saying correct. No, I'm saying correct. He's the first one that comes to my mind as well, and he's not the leading scorer.
Is it Richardson? Second. Was it Richardson?
It was not. Jason Richardson was the 7th leading scorer on this team.
Oh man, I have those are the two players that I would have thought of first, so I'm not sure who it would have been. But first of all, before you tell me, shout out Mateen Cleaves. I'm just so glad. It's been 3 years we've been doing this show. I think it's the first time we've said his name, and that's a travesty. We need to start incorporating it more often. I loved that guy.
He was one of the first basketball players I fell in love with as like like I was a sophomore in high school when that happened. And so, dude, it's just like foundational in my mind. I see him dancing like this as they won the national. Oh, dude, it's so good. No, the answer. Do you want me to tell you, or any more guesses?
Tell me.
Morris Peterson was the leading scorer, 16.8 points a game for Tom Izzo's team.
Love it. That also is a pretty good testament of how long ago it was that happened. But I'm glad you mentioned the Purdue and kind of pushing for it too, and not shying away from that, because I feel like there's so many coaches that are like, oh, like, we're taking it one game at a time, and like there's obviously some truth to that and certainly some value in that. But if your players are stressing about this pressure and you're kind of just ignoring it, I think that's not necessarily the right way to go. So I think for Purdue, especially a veteran team, like, lean into it, man. Like let's go win the whole dang thing, and let's believe that we're capable of that and expect that we're capable of that, because that's how you end up finding yourself there. And that's part of the reason Painter is one of the very best in the sport at what he does. Isaac, want to move on and look at a few other kind of interesting storylines for the Big Ten. One of them that kind of came about while doing some research for our projections for awards at the end of the year was there's not a lot of high profile, like 5-star freshmen joining the Big Ten this year. In fact, in 247 Sports' top 20 rankings of the 2025 class, only one of them is jumping to a Big Ten school. You have eight going to the Big 12, 6 going to the ACC, 4 going to the SEC, and then 1 each at the Big East and the Big Ten. For the Big Ten, that would be Elijah Arenas, who obviously is coming off of a pretty tragic incident over the summer. Sounds like he is recovering well and should be a factor for USC this year, the son of former NBA All-Star Gilbert Arenas. But pretty surprising to see a conference that is considered kind of widely the second best conference in college basketball, certainly a rich conference in terms of money and NIL budgets, and yet not a conference that is seemingly leaning super hard into at least this high school class in 2025.
The problem for Elijah Arenas, though, is he had that knee injury soon after that, and it seems like he might miss most of the season, if not all of it. So that's a bummer. Andy, while there might not be a lot of freshmen, high-profile freshmen, I should say, coming in, oh, baby, are they coming in droves from the transfer portal? Because let's continue to use 247, since that's the metric we looked at. 3 of 247's top 4 rated transfers are all Big Ten players. Obviously, let me make you name them, Andy. Can you pull who that would be?
I think I can. I think it's got to be Yaxel, right?
Yep.
It's got to be Donovan Dent.
Yep.
And it's got to be Sturts. Is it Bennett Sturts?
It's Bennett Sturts. That's 3 of the top 4 transfer portal players, the other being PJ Haggerty, as per 247, right? So it's like that is part of 2025 college athletics. You might have a whole bunch of high school freshmen coming in from the high school ranks. You might not. You might have a whole bunch of high target, high profile transfer guys coming in, which the Big Ten does. And you might also have, as the international, as the Big Ten does, some high profile international guys, obviously headlined by the Eastern Bloc at Illinois, Andy. And so it's just really interesting, I think, to see the way you can go about roster construction in this day and age. And I think the Big Ten is a good example of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm really excited to see how some of the internationals do. We mentioned the Eastern Bloc. I'd also be remiss if we didn't mention Hans Steinbach at UW, who I think is going to be one of the better international players in all of college basketball this upcoming season. I think he's going to be a really, really fun player to watch. Looking back at the Big Ten and what happened last year. Last year in the conference, they were second in Ken Palm's rankings. They're projected to be second again this year. It'd be pretty surprising if they were not, although the Big 12 will always give them a chase there. The regular season champ was Michigan State because Izzo is just seemingly undefeated, regardless to where they are projected. The tournament champ, however, was Michigan, and then 8 teams made the NCAA tournament. And once again, March is called Izzo for a reason. Michigan State went the farthest of anybody in the conference out to the Elite 8. Maryland, Michigan, Purdue in the Sweet 16. Illinois, Oregon, UCLA, and Wisconsin all picked up a W into the second round. Shout out Nebraska, I guess, for winning the college basketball crown. Give it up for Fred Hoiberg and winning a championship that maybe people will remember, but most likely they probably will not. But hey, that's how it goes. At least better than losing in the college basketball crown, I suppose. Isaac, we got some coaching changes. Does that even
exist, Andy? Like, why does that exist?
It does. Why is a different question. We don't have time for why. But yes, it does. It is a real thing. I can promise you that. Isaac, 4 coaching changes. 4 coaching changes in the Big Ten. And honestly, like, this is one of the most intriguing things about this conference to me. I think all 4 of these coaching changes are going to really shape this league in a significant way. Maybe not right away, although for some of them, I think pretty soon. And we're in an era now where coaching changes don't take 2, 3, 4 years to really start to impact the program. I mean, talk to Louisville, talk to Kentucky, talk to a few others, certainly some hopeful people at like Miami and Virginia that it's going to turn around real fast. And I think that's what they're hoping for at some of these schools as well. You want to talk about some of these changes here?
Yeah. What's interesting to me, Andy, 2 of them in particular have been hopping around the last couple of years. And obviously, when we talk about that, that's Darren DeVries, who's now at Indiana after being at West Virginia, after being at Drake. And there's the tie-in right there. Mike Woodson, obviously out at Indiana, because the other person we're talking about is Ben McCollum, who won 87 D2 national championships.
Exactly.
That's a factual number. Came to Drake last year, kept blowing it out of the water, and then now is at Iowa. Fran McCaffrey out at Iowa. He wasn't done. He decided to go on to Penn. There's no reason, Andy, in my mind, to think that Ben McCollum's not going to just keep winning, because he's a great basketball coach. And Bennett Sturts is one of the single coolest stories in all of college basketball, how he just keeps being able to ball out wherever he's playing. We'll talk about him more in a little bit. So it's interesting to have those 2 guys with the Drake ties who have been bouncing around a little bit. And then the other guys who were at their spots a little bit longer. Buzz Williams comes to Maryland from Texas A&M, where Kevin Willard leaves. Yikes. That was rough to go to Villanova. Hopefully, come on, man. Coach Willard, please make Villanova good again. And then Nico Medved comes over from Colorado State to Minnesota. A little homecoming there. Ben Johnson out for the Golden Gophers. And there is that.
Yep. And we, with all the new coaching staffs and with a lot of other kind of coaches who are 1, 2, 3 years in, there wasn't really a big hot seat conversation in the Big Ten, save for one school. At this point, I think Steve Pikiell has to be on the hot seat at Rutgers. I sort of understand why they didn't can him after last year, even though with 2 top 5 freshmen, 2 top 6 picks in the NBA draft, they underperformed, and the amount of people who were like, how could these 2 guys be top 5 picks if Rutgers is bad? It's like, because everybody else on that team and the coaching staff just wasn't very good. That was the problem. But at this point, I think unless Rutgers wins 20 games or like cements themselves in the NCAA tournament, if they miss the tournament, win less than 20 games, I think you got to make a coaching change at Rutgers. I know it's not an easy place to coach. I know Pikiell's had some success, but I think that the seat is quite warm at Rutgers, whereas I don't think it's particularly warm anywhere else.
And it's so nice to be able to say a year after getting the whole West Coast into the Big Ten that there are no conference membership changes this year. Andy, great storylines, lots of intrigue in the Big Ten. I just mentioned Bennett Sturts. It's time for our preseason award predictions, Andy. Obviously, Braden Smith leads the way, not in the Big Ten, but as the National Player of the Year front runner. So let's not bury the lead there. But what we got to answer is who else is going to join him on our Big Ten 5-person first team all preseason Big Ten. We'll unpack that in just a second. Right after I tell you about DoorDash, y'all, it's almost the weekend. I count Friday as the weekend, and it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. We've actually got basketball to talk about because exhibition games are going on. Ballin and Boutwell going on down in Birmingham, Alabama. For Oklahoma State, who played Auburn, Anthony Roy, Isaiah Coleman, and Jalen Curry delivered in a big way. This trio each scored 20-plus points in the Cowboys' overtime exhibition win over Auburn on Wednesday. When the pressure was on, this trio came through. No hesitation, no delay. And just like they delivered for the Cowboys, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep that streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply, and the promo code runs all the way through November 18th. This episode is also brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts faster for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Plus, their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. So join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege for 5% off your first order. Again, that's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Andy, it's time to talk Big Ten preseason picks, all conference and awards. We're going to start with our first team selections. One of the things that Andy and I always do is that we're only able to pick one person from each team so that we can spread the love around. Hello, there are 18 teams. Part of it is that while the Big Ten is out here putting 10 people on this team, just split it up into 2 teams, Big Ten. We're only picking a 5-person team. Andy, please hit us with your preseason all Big Ten.
You would think that in an 18-team league where we're only picking 5 players, that there wouldn't be even a necessity to bring up that we can't pick 2 players from the same team. However, as we noted earlier in the show, there are 2 All-Americans on Purdue's roster. Both of them should be in the conversation for all Big Ten first team. Certainly if it's 10 players, even if it's 5 players, Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn should probably be considered. Since we are only allowed to have 1 player, the obvious choice is Braden Smith. There's not much of a debate there. Braden Smith is very likely, maybe not likely, but he's the strongest candidate, unquestionably, to be the conference or the national player of the year, and certainly the conference player of the year. So we'll go with him at number 1. And then those 3 aforementioned transfers, 3 of the top 4 transfers in college basketball, according to 247 Sports, they are all also on this list here. That's Yaxel Lendeborg coming from UAB to Michigan via a lengthy stop in the NBA draft process before he decided to come back and play for Dusty May and the Wolverines. Bennett Sturts, who we talked about already, coming to Iowa from Drake, following his coach, Ben McCollum, another guy who probably could have been selected in the NBA draft. I'm really excited to see what he does facing better competition in the Big Ten. Donovan Dent, I think he might be my favorite transfer in the entire class. He's just an excellent player. I think Yaxel's ranked higher than him in most places, and I get why, but Donovan Dent is an elite scorer, an elite defender, a very good distributor. He is going to UCLA. I'm curious to see the fit in an offense that plays at a bit of a slower pace, but I think that there's a lot to really like about what Donovan Dent brings to UCLA and Mick Cronin's team. And then for my 5th spot, I debated so many people. Again, I would have gone with Trey Kaufman-Renn and just not even thought about it for a second longer had we not had that rule in place. But because of that, it was like, there's some guys at Oregon, there's some guys at Illinois, there's some guys at a few other places. But I ended up going with John Blackwell at Wisconsin, returning to the Badgers, helping to fill a role from John Tonje, who departs. They also bring in Nick Boyd. I really like this backcourt at Wisconsin, and I think Blackwell, if they run that faster pace like they did last year and are trying to score 90-plus points per game, I think Blackwell is going to put up some really big numbers, and so give me him at number 5 on this list.
I love it, Andy. And you and I were talking about this before the show. I think this is actually, funny enough, in an 18-team league, I think this is the most unanimity. Is that a word? Does that make sense?
Sure.
that we've had in these conversations.
Uniformity.
What is unanimity? That's a word, but I don't know what it means. Uniformity is great.
Whatever.
Look it up while I talk about stuff. No, don't. We'll talk about it later. Or somebody just hop in the comments and spam the comments with a unicorn emoji and then define unanimity. Okay. So Andy, we actually had 4 of the same 5 on our preseason Big Ten team. Braden Smith, obviously. Donovan Dent. I mean, it's just going to be an absolute dude. Bennett, which I'm high on UCLA. We'll get to that in a little bit. Bennett Sturts, no reason to think, as we already said, he can't keep doing what he's doing. And Yaxel's going to be phenomenal for Dusty May. My 5th, though, was different. Didn't go with John Blackwell. As you've already said, if we could go with 2 on the same team, TKR would be my 5th one here. But I'm going with Nate Biddle, the big man at Oregon. I probably actually would have gone with his teammate Jackson Shellstad. We're not on the Shellstad on the
Shelfstad.
Shelfstad. That's what I was trying to do in real time. Yeah,
I got you.
Unanimity, Shelfstad, all that. You're so good at words and stuff. But I truly think Nate Biddle is going to be very, very good for Oregon. There are not going to be many bigs in this league that can contend. Like you talk about Yaxel, he's given up like 42 inches to Nate Biddle, and so 5 years probably. But all of that is going to do it. Andy, I'm also tempted. I really thought long and hard about saying this is the year that Tucker DeVries is back to being fully healthy. And I mean, this dude, when healthy, is one of the single best scorers in the entire nation. I think he's going to be great for his dad, but Indiana has a bunch of good scorers, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I was tempted on DeVries too, but also like Lamar Washington's a great player at Indiana. So there's just like a lot of really, really, really good players that we could have chosen here, but had to find a way to narrow it down. Isaac, looking at the actual awards, probably not a lot of mystery on some of these. We'll start with what I imagine is the least mysterious one, Player of the Year. It's got to be Braden Smith. I'm going with Braden Smith. It feels like it would be malpractice to pick anybody else for this award, considering he is the heavy front runner for the Wooden Award as well.
Yep. And things could change during the season. Who knows? But for a preseason pick, malpractice. Absolutely. Yep. Transfer of the year. We talked about all the high level transfers that are in this conference. Andy, we talked about how 3 of 247's top 4 are in it. Funny enough, we had all 3 of those. Both of us did on our preseason team. So Andy, I'm assuming that you picked one of those 3 for your transfer of the year. Who is it?
Yeah, give me Donovan Dent. Give me Dent. Again, I think numbers-wise, like I think Sturts might score more points per game by virtue of being in a faster offense. But I think Dent's going to be the most valuable player here because of what he brings on both sides of the ball, the facilitation skills. I think UCLA is going to be better. I think if UCLA finishes top 4 in the Big Ten and Dent is their best player and leading scorer, then he is going to be this transfer of the year and honestly will contend strongly to be an All-American this year.
And let us encourage everyone right now. Voters, if you're out there listening, Donovan Dent's numbers are not going to be as sexy as they were at New Mexico. But he's got better players around him, and he's playing for Mick Cronin. So please look at tempo-adjusted stuff and recognize how insane he's going to be. And another one I thought about, Andy, that we haven't really talked about is Chad Baker-Mazara, especially with Elijah Arenas out at USC. He could just have a massive year. That'll be a lot of fun to watch. All right, freshman of the year, Andy. We've talked about how Elijah Arenas, if healthy, is probably the choice here, but he ain't. And so we probably got to go with somebody else. Who did you pick?
Yeah, I kind of struggled with this a little bit because, again, with freshman of the year, you're always looking at not necessarily the highest ranked freshman as much as like who's going to actually have the opportunity to play. And so this was kind of a combo of those things because Caden Mingo is one of the highest regarded freshmen in the Big Ten. He's 34th according to 247 Sports, and he's going to get a serious run at Penn State, a team that is kind of lacking talent around him in a major way. Bart Torvik's projections, which are historically very hard on freshmen, and typically most freshmen outperform the expectations that are on them. He has Caden Mingo projected to be this team's second leading scorer, averaging like 12 or so points per game. If he's anywhere near that, I think he's probably going to be the highest performing freshman in the country, at least with regards to high school freshmen. Again, there's some international guys like Petrovich at Illinois and Steinbach at UW who might outperform him, but I'm going with Caden Mingo here.
I love it. Andy, I went with Trey McKinney. He's not going to start at Michigan. That's how, deep they are. But that said, everything points to him being a key fixture off the bench, and no reason why in a Dusty May coach team he couldn't thrive and do well. If he could get to 8 points a game. He's got good positional size. I think he could have some other numbers that would help him get there, and that'll be really good. Andy, coach of the year. This one's always a crapshoot. Obviously, if Purdue runs away with it, I don't see how you don't give it to Matt Painter. But outside of that, Andy, what are we looking at?
Yeah, I'm going with Brad Underwood here. I think Illinois is a team that will be really strong by the time conference play rolls around if they're able to get healthy and they kind of get everything together. I could see this team finishing third or fourth in the Big Ten. And if they're able to do that, get themselves a 5-6 seed, maybe even a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament, I think Underwood it would sort of be like a legacy win for him because he hasn't gotten one yet. But I feel like he's one of the best coaches in a conference full of really, really good coaches. And I think a top 5 or top 4 finish would potentially be enough for him to win this award, unless, like you said, Matt Painter wins the conference by 3 games or so.
Yeah, that would be crazy. I would love that. I think Illinois is going to be great. As you said, got to get Andrei Stojakovic healthy, and that'll matter. As I alluded to earlier, I'm really high on UCLA, and with them staying on the West Coast for basically all of non-con play, I think that's going to build up a nice resume, and they're going to be ready to fire and rock come conference time. And so I'm going with Mick Cronin to be the coach of the year. I also wouldn't be like if Ben McCollum just keeps doing what he's been doing, that wouldn't shock me either. But I think that UCLA is going to finish higher than Iowa, and so I'm going to go with Mick Cronin here.
Well, Isaac, we're going to close the show with really answering one big question. Can the Big Ten challenge the SEC and get the most teams or tied for the most teams in the NCAA tournament out of a single conference? We're going to talk about that in just a second. But first, guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiet Go Long. This isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for your confidence. The process is simple. Connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, and if prescribed, your treatment ships directly to your door. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to Rougiet, that's RUGIET.com, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege, and you'll get 15% off your first order. That's Rougiet.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Make sure to use our code so they know we sent you. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Folks, the NFL season is right in the thick of it, and FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you'll get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets that you can use all across the app. And when you use FanDuel, whether it's parlays, player props, or even jumping in on the action live, it makes watching sports even more exciting since you've got a little bit riding on the action. So whether you're a casual fan or you love deep diving into the stats, FanDuel makes that game day experience so much better. FanDuel also has odds for most of the power, or all of the power conferences, including the Big Ten for basketball this year. Purdue, of course, your leader at plus 200, followed by Dusty May and Michigan at plus 440, UCLA at plus 550, Illinois at plus 700, Ohio State, the Buckeyes at plus 950, and then a big old gap before you get to Oregon at plus 1900. A little surprised to not see Wisconsin or Michigan State on there, but maybe those are the odds that you're looking for. And if that's the case, what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com now to download the FanDuel app and get started today. All right, folks, closing out the show, continuing our conversation here, looking at the Big Ten Conference, getting ready for the 25-26 college basketball season, just a couple of weeks away. As we always do here in the third segment of these conference previews, we've made a tier list for all the teams in the conference. I put it together this week, so I'm going to list them out. Isaac's going to tell me what I got wrong, what he thinks I got right. We're going to get into that here. My tier number one, I debated a lot between having this be a one-team tier versus not. I ended up having both Purdue and Michigan in the first tier. With 18 teams, it's just hard. You don't want to have 9 or 10 different tiers. Tier 2 for me, a lot of teams kind of bunched together here. UCLA, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Oregon. Feels like 3 through 7, 8 or so in this conference is going to be, could go a lot of different ways, going to be very little separation between those teams, which should make every regular season game feel pretty fun. Tier number 3, this is where you get to the teams that I think are going to be a little bit more on the bubble. Ohio State, Iowa, Indiana, and then Washington. Curious to see what Danny Sprinkle looks like in his second season out in Seattle. Tier number 4, Maryland, Nebraska, and USC, Coach Muss's team down there. And then tier number 5, the final tier here, Northwestern at the top, Minnesota, then Rutgers, and then closing it out with Mike Rhodes and the Nittany Lions of Penn State. Isaac, what do you got?
Well, you should have trusted your instincts, Andy. Purdue should be in a tier by themselves.
Yeah, I get that.
No, that's the big change I would make. And then I would bring kind of pinch the middle there and go Michigan, UCLA, and Illinois all together. I'm a little bit lower on Michigan than some people, but I don't think they're going to be bad. I just don't have them in that top tier of like title contenders, maybe that some others would. I would have them second tier nationally, but I am a little bit higher on UCLA and Illinois, assuming Stojakovic gets healthy. I mean, for me with UCLA, I just think about returning Sky Clark, Tyler Bilodeau, Eric Daly, bringing in Donovan Dent to go with that. Like, I just think this is the year that UCLA does it. Like, I've fretted all week, Andy. We did our final preseason top 25. And all week I've been kicking myself because I wish I had moved UCLA higher because I really like them. Anyway, so I would have done that, and that would leave Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Oregon together in tier 3. And then everything else I feel good about, like Ohio State, Iowa, Indiana, Washington, all a little bit of wait and see. I might have bumped Washington down. I'm not as high on them as some other people. And Maryland, Nebraska is another one where I think Coach Hoiberg needs to have a good year, Andy. I'm just curious to see what happens there. USC without Arenas, I still think they're above Northwestern, Minnesota, Rutgers, and Penn State, but they might drop down from Maryland and Nebraska a little bit. But I'm excited for Buzz Williams at Maryland. I think that'll be fun, but I think they take a step back with the likes of Gillespie gone and Derek Queen and all that. So they got to restart a little bit. So all in all, Andy, I think your tiers are good. I just think you should have gone with your gut.
We haven't mentioned him yet, and I feel I was going to mention him when we were talking about transfers earlier too. And since you mentioned USC and then immediately started talking about Maryland, it made me think of him. Rodney Rice is going to be awesome at USC. He's going to be really good over there, and I think he's a transfer. As again, the Arenas injury puts even more pressure on him. I'm excited to see what he does. I think I like the roster for USC. I'm just skeptical about it all coming together because we've seen rosters on paper that were talented that Eric Musselman struggled to get kind of going. So I'm kind of holding out a little bit of caution on USC right now, but I like the talent in that group. Isaac, looking at predictions for the regular season and conference tournament, we've alluded to it multiple times. We think Purdue is the best team in the conference. Do you expect at the end of the year that the Big Ten regular season champion will be Purdue, or do you think there's somebody else who could take it?
I think they will be the regular season champion, and I don't think it will be particularly close. I'm also wouldn't be shocked if it's one of those years where behind Purdue, there's like a gaggle of 7 or 8 teams, like legitimately, we've seen that before, that are separated by like a game or two. And so I wouldn't be shocked.
Purdue wins the league by a game, and the 7th place team is behind Purdue by 3 games. Like that feels like it's pretty doable.
That's very possible. Andy, what I do think, though, is that because Purdue is going to have such a strong regular season, I don't think they're going to be really all that bothered about winning the Big Ten tournament because they've already got like the number 1 or 2 overall seed wrapped up. I'm not saying they're going to lose, but maybe lose in the semifinals or something on Saturday. So they're not expending all that energy. So I've been high. I'm saying I'm high on UCLA. Give me the Bruins to win the Big Ten tournament.
I love it. I'm not going with UCLA, although I'm also not going with Purdue. I'm going with Michigan State. It's the tournament happens in March. Tom Izzo's team. I like this roster. I don't think that they're going to be like, I don't think they're going to finish top 4 in the conference. I could see them finishing 5th, 6th, somewhere in there. But this team is a lot of continuity, a lot of guys returning, 4 starters returning from last year's team. I think that amount of continuity and the Tom Izzo of it all is enough for this team to go on a little run in the Big Ten tournament and potentially put themselves from like, hey, we're going to be a 9 seed to, hey, now we're going to be more comfortably in that 6, 7 seed range where, you got a bit of a better chance of being back in the Sweet 16.
All right, Andy, last year, you said it earlier in the show, the Big Ten had 8 teams in the NCAA tournament. Are they getting past that this year?
Yes. Yeah, they are. I have them in double figures. I have them at 10. I think there's I think it's anywhere from like 8 to 11 feels fairly reasonable. I think there's going to be 3 or 4 teams that are kind of hovering around that bubble. But for me, give me Purdue and the 2 Michigan schools. Give me Wisconsin. Give me UCLA and Oregon. Give me Illinois, Ohio State, Indiana, and then Iowa. Indiana and Iowa are the 2 teams where I'm like, I could see it, being closer to 8 and those teams not making it. But I have them on the correct side right now with a couple of teams on the other side that I'm sure people will disagree with, like Maryland, USC, potentially Washington, Nebraska as well.
Andy, I went to the high side of your range. I went with 11. Why not? Mm-hmm. Let's challenge the SEC and let's see if the Big Ten can do it. How funny would that be if the Big Ten ended up with more teams in? And I think the difference for me was I added USC, whereas I don't think you didn't have them. And so that's where I went one higher than you, almost guaranteed to be wrong, but it's fun to talk about and dream. So Andy, Big Ten should be a lot of fun. Really intrigued by all the international players coming in, all the big time transfers. Going to be excited to see how it plays out. Can Purdue run the table and just do this thing we're expecting them to do? Or does Houston, who lost last year's national, I would love a Purdue Houston national championship. Give me all of that energy. I'm here for it. Like Kelvin Sampson versus Matt Painter to get one of them's going to win their first championship. Oh man, I'm all about that. Anyway, Andy, super fun show. Great to be together. Next week, gang, we get back at it. A couple more team previews. We'll have our West Coast Conference preview later in the week. Going to be a lot of fun. What do we have next week? Tennessee, Andy. We've got Wisconsin team preview next week. And so we're looking forward to all of that. As always, and especially today, got to apologize to the Lawyer family. Let's go Wild Popes. Cheers to the McBruins. And until next week, peace.